Good morning and welcome to the Forex Daily Update, brought to you by Pepperstone on Wednesday the 10th of October 2018. I'm Darren Sinden and you can follow me throughout the day on Twitter by using @ds_Pepperstone. Right, let's take a look at those overnight changes and price moves to be aware of. A relatively interesting session yesterday, one that was characterised by pushback, really, I would say, against the US dollar. You can see here the euro, the pound sterling, the Australian and New Zealand dollars all making good gains on the session against their American counterpart. And a similar story for the Canadian and Mexican peso, the Canadian dollar and Mexican peso, I should say. More modest gains, but nonetheless they were up on the day against the US currency. However, it wasn't all one-way traffic, and both the Japanese yen and the Chinese yuan were down on the day versus the greenback. Dollar index for its part marginally lower before we recorded the video, down by around 0.09% at 95.58 trading. Okay then, what's on the calendar? Events that may move the markets today. A pretty busy calendar today. We've already had speeches from the Fed's Williams and the RBA's Coombs, and the Fed's Williams again. He's a busy man today. And to come this morning at 6:45 a.m. GMT, we should have industrial production data for the month of August out of France, and that'll be followed at 8 o'clock by the same data out of Italy, so a chance to compare the second and third biggest economies in Europe there in terms of their industrial outputs. At 8:30 a.m. we have a raft of UK data. Top of the list is balance of trade data for August. That's also accompanied by the new monthly GDP read, and in this case that's also for August. And then after that we have a raft of construction and manufacturing output data to consider. At 9 a.m. we're back to central bank speeches, and this time it's the turn of the Bank of England's Haldane. That's the Bank of England's chief economist speaking there. And then there's a gap till 12:30 and we cross the Atlantic and to Canada for building permits for the month of August. Then we jump back over the border immediately for core PPI and PPI broader measures for the month of September out of the USA. At 2 p.m. this afternoon GMT we'll also have wholesale inventories data for the month of August, and at 4:15 p.m. we shall hear from the Fed member Evans, who'll be speaking then. To round off the day at 8:30 p.m. we'll have API crude oil stocks changes for the week of the 5th of October. At 10 p.m. we'll hear from the Fed's Bostic, and if you're still up and in the market at 10:30 p.m. GMT tonight, you can hear from the RBA's Ellis, who will be speaking to round off the day's proceedings. Okay then, breaking news and comment that's caught my eye overnight. First of all, investors continue to push money into Brazil after Sunday's first round of presidential elections, and the country's stocks, bonds and currency have all made gains. We talked about the possibility of a rotation back into emerging markets and out of developed markets, principally the US. There's obviously an obvious catalyst for this in terms of the hopes of a new president and a new direction for Brazil, but it's an interesting thing to be watching as it happens and plays out. Meanwhile, the head of the WTO, the World Trade Organization, has called on members to defend the body in the face of mounting protectionism, most of that protectionism of course emanating from Washington. And the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, will brief his bosses, the European Commission, today about the latest round of Brexit negotiations. Okay then, time for food for thought and something to take away with you into the trading day and beyond. And why not think about this? Money is flowing back into Brazil on hopes of reform recovery, as we've just seen. But many emerging markets are still under pressure and require finance from abroad. Some of these states, however, are actually within Europe, with Poland and Hungary's external financing needs greater than 10% of their respective GDPs. Now that's probably a surprise to many of us. It's not an issue for Poland and Hungary now, while the ECB is pumping money into the system and there's a high degree of liquidity. But of course, come December, ECB will turn off its QE program and look towards raising rates. And as rates rise, as we've seen with the dollar, a currency can become scarce. So that could become an issue for Poland and Hungary and other emerging markets, but certainly I'll be keeping my eyes on the liquidity and the tightness of markets there in the coming months. Okay, please take a moment to read the risk warning. Trading CFDs and foreign exchange on margin can be a risky business. If you're in any doubt about those risks or the suitability of leveraged products for you, then please contact your Pepperstone account representatives. And do take a moment to read this risk warning thoroughly. Thank you for your time.